Good morning. I hope that your Wednesday's off to a good start. Mine is so far. This is the second cup of coffee, a few minutes earlier than usual this morning. I did need, as I posted on Facebook a few minutes ago, needed to do this a little earlier this morning. I need to be on the road in a few minutes heading up to Greenville for the start of the North Carolina Annual Conference. And I thought I'd reflect on that for a few minutes in the annual conference and sort of what conferences are. Conferences are sort of a big thing in my tribe, Methodist Circles, United Methodist Circles. I guess I could have talked about our friends in the Southern Baptist Convention and sort of their recent moves about women in ministry. I did that, I think, just last year, and it's tempting to go back at it, but I'm not. But this idea of conferencing in our tribe, our denomination, we have a lot of different conferences. There are charge conferences / church conference that are held in the fall of every year. You elect officers and report on some of the happenings of the church. There are once in a while district conferences. They don't happen all that commonly, but once in a while there are district conferences. Then there are the annual conference, which meets every year. All the ones that I've ever heard of meet in June, and then every 4 years there are jurisdictional conferences, and then general conference. Yeah, we got a lot of conferences. The annual conference, in some places, the annual conference is contiguous with state borders, but not always. North Carolina has 2 annual conferences. There's the North Carolina Conference and then there's the Western North Carolina Conference. Georgia has 2 annual conferences. South Carolina has 1. There are some areas in the country where several states together make up 1 annual conference. But in general, annual conference, they speak for that conference. The annual conference will ordain people into the ministry, and the annual conference sort of orders the life of the churches, the denomination in that region. In a region, on the jurisdictional conference, several annual conferences together make up a jurisdiction. So we in North Carolina are part of the southeastern jurisdiction. When the jurisdictional conference meets every 4 years, they elect. Main thing they do, they elect bishops. And then general conference meets every 4 years, and when they meet, they speak on matters for the whole denomination. The whole denomination. So we have all of these conferences. But why? Conferencing is a big deal for us, and that does go back all the way to Wesley. Wesley considered Christian conferencing to be a means of grace. And so here's where we need to look at, say, the North Carolina annual meeting, its annual conference, in a different light than we look at, say, a convention. Wesley considered conferencing to be a means of grace, and not so much the idea of Robert's Rules of Order and things like that, and procedural motions as being a means of grace. But Christian conferencing is. And so when we gather for our annual conference, yeah, there is a good bit of Robert's Rules of Order and amendments to the amendment to the amendment to the resolution kind of stuff. There is some of that, but there's also right much worship in there, and it is an opportunity to see people that you may only see that once a year. So what did Wesley mean when he considered Christian conferencing to be a means of grace? So means of grace we think of are being those ways by which we can receive God's grace. They're the channels, the avenues through which God extends grace. And most normally we might think of prayer or worship, Holy Communion, study of Scripture, things like that. Wesley counted fasting as a means of grace. Those things are pretty ordinary. I mean, you'd expect those to be a means of grace. One would expect studying the Bible to be a means of grace. One would expect communion or prayer to be a means of grace. But what about Christian conferencing? Wesley counted that as a means of grace, and in doing so, he really is he's thinking or referring back to one of his most famous quotes. One of the famous quotes from Wesley is that all holiness is social holiness. Social holiness. And social in that regard meaning to be shared with others. One of the things for him was that the Christian life is not meant to be lived in isolation. It's not meant to be lived in isolation. And so Christian conferencing, meaning gathering with other believers, is a means of grace. Gathering with other believers is a means of grace. So gathering with other believers in a small group is a means of grace. Gathering other believers for a Bible study is a means of grace. Gathering with other believers, if a church sends a group of people to the soup kitchen in Hamlet or a homeless shelter to volunteer, that's a means of grace. Our faith isn't meant to be lived in isolation. It's not meant to be lived in isolation. It is very, very difficult to be a good Christian all by yourself. We need each other. And so, Wesley counted Christian conferencing as a means of grace. Because we need to conference together, we need to meet together, because we need each other. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for listening in.